Welcome into a special episode of I've Got a Theory. And I've got a special guest today, Eric Gillman with Sharp Retention.
Hello.
Slaying some of the best knives on the planet, but we're not talking about knives, even though he's got the shirt and I've got the
the knife guy today. Just repping and being in the office. So,
well, awesome. So we're not going to talk about knives or real estate, but I am interested in what Eric's got to say because we've chatted a lot in the past, and we both have progressive, interesting, unique views on a lot of different things. So I'm really interested to hear what he's got to say today.
Sure. So thank you for having me on. It's really an honor. I was really excited when I heard your idea for this podcast. I think it's a really neat idea because we all have these crazy things or theories or ideas in our heads, and we don't really talk about them. And as I was preparing for this Zoom call, a handful of them were all rifling through my head. And I was talking to my girlfriend about it last night, and there's a few of them are like conspiracy theory type stuff that I don't really know enough about. But I do have one theory that I have believed for a long time, and it's through intense observation and then formidable research. So prepare yourself to be terrified.
Well, awesome, because that's exactly how theories are formed. So you've got the basics right. So let's get going. What do you got?
So my theory is that if ants, little tiny ants, wanted to, they could take over the whole damn world. Why do I feel that way? Number one, the organizational aspect of an ant colony is truly something to behold. I sound crazy, but do your research. The amount of organization that goes into building one of those underground ant colonies is extremely sophisticated for a thing that has a brain the size of half of a thumbtack, right?
Yep.
So that's, of course, they're not intelligent yet. But the other reason why I really believe that if they wanted to, this could happen. There are over 1 million ants per people on Earth. In case you're wondering how many ants that is over 343 pounds of ants per person. That's
wow.
Old people, that's babies. I think as a young, healthy individual, I could probably fight off. Picture a person made of ants who's 343 pounds, like a Brock Lesnar made of ants.
Yeah, terrifying. And they're all like super strong, right? They can all lift like 20 times their own body weight.
That's it too. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, 100%. This has come from deep observation of staring at ants on the ground. I witnessed an ant fight one time, which I don't know how much time we have, but that was wild.
What were they fighting?
So I was in Arizona, and I was at an Airbnb, and I was walking out to go to the gym, and I caught what I've never seen anything like this. There was just like a whole bunch of ants going around, but then I had a little bit of time, and so I was like, what's going on here? And I looked, and there was a fight going on, for real. So there was these big ants, like this big ones, and there was like 10 of them, and there was a freaking 100 or 200 of those tiny little ones. And the tiny little ones had 2 dead big ones, and they were taking them away. And there was one little ant carrying the big ant, and all the other little ants like playing defense against it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I should have videotaped it, but for most people, it just would have looked like a bunch of ants on the ground. But I stared at it for like 10 or 15 minutes, which, super effective use of time. But I had some free time, and I was just like, what is going on here? And it was at that point that I did originate my theory that if ants wanted to, they could take over the world.
Well, so let me dive into this a little bit further. Why doesn't something that could take over the world not take over the world? Because I think I can elaborate on this, because I think there's more to this, because there's probably a reason why they aren't compelled to take over my office and raid my fridge and take over grocery stores where there's huge amounts of food and stuff like that, or whatever they would need. So why aren't they doing that?
I think it boils down to why we aren't doing the same things that we want to do. Why don't we take over the world? Why don't we have the biggest businesses? Why aren't we in the best shape? They're not organized.
Is that what it is?
They live in chaos, and that is our saving grace. Is that
I would argue that something that's lost in us as humans, that are greedy, that are power hungry, that are organized, that are trying to take over the world, one person at a time. The difference between animals and humans is that they don't have that compulsion for greed. I think they only take what's necessary, and it's a circular economy with them, right? Whatever they use goes back in. There's nothing wasted, right? It's not like us that's pumping oil out of the ground and turning things into plastic, which damages the environment. Ants and animals in general
Yep.
live in a circular economy. They only use what they need to stay alive and for their
Mm-hmm.
organization to stay alive. And they have that collective group thought, and they've got this intelligence that they've evolved over millions of years that tells them what they need to do to defend their territory, to keep their colony going well. And it's incredible what we're learning. I'll admit I'm a nerd to an extent as well. I literally read National Geographic cover to cover, every single article. I skip the script about using prescription drugs and stuff. But besides that, all the content I'm reading. And last month they had a really good article on bees. And they're now starting to make little real wood enclosures with cameras and lighting into them and finding out incredible things about bees. So one of the interesting tidbits I can share with you that they found out and learned is that they had this beehive having a fight with these big giant red hornets. And the hornets would come, scoop up a bee, drag them off, and then feed them to the hornet larva, right? The wasps. And so the bees came up with the defense technique, and they probably have evolved this from fighting wasps for millennia. They would immediately jump on the wasp, which were 4 to 5 times as big as each bee, pin it down. They'd make a ball of bees around it, and this is where it gets intense. They would start flapping their wing muscles to generate heat, and it was enough heat was generated, it would cook the wasp alive. Isn't that incredible?
Ferocious.
And so, like, think about the things that we don't know about ants that maybe we're starting to figure out because we don't know everything. About
I think you make a great point there. In that, when I say they lack organization on a macro level. In that, colonies of ants aren't calling other colonies of ants and getting together. But on a micro level, yeah, the systems and the organization that like ants or bees or bugs or anything or other animals really have, it's truly fascinating to watch. And I think you bring up a great point that is a human, need, and really not even necessarily a human to grow, to become better, to take over, to do all these things. I think it's a human need, and I think it's a human idea, and not necessarily with every person. And I think a lot of people with what's happening right now with this whole, the quarantine situation, maybe some people are realizing that, hey, maybe, being the biggest and the greatest and the best and everything isn't always necessarily. Maybe we could start thinking about the collective group as well. That'd
be the goal. That'd be the dream, right? And so going on my Nat Geo kick, this month's issue has 2 covers, one side on one side and the other on the other. I wish I had it with me to show you, but it's like how we saved the world in 2070, right? From an optimist guide. And then you flip it, and then it's like how we ruined our world in 2070 from a pessimist guide. And so there are those 2 options, and hopefully, we land somewhere in between. But it does take that understanding that, hey, we are collectively, not just as humans, but as earthlings, the same organization, the same life force on our spaceship Earth hurtling through space. And if we can't work together and keep our spaceship working properly, then we're all screwed. Not just us or the ants. Maybe some animals live through if we have some kind of environmental consequences and global warming that damages the planet, where maybe it only damages a majority of humans or all humans, who knows. We know the ants will probably thrive. They'll be okay, and they'll come back, and there'll be another version of evolved humanity, potentially. But might as well get that group thinking, saying, hey, I don't need to have yachts that have helicopters on mansions and have billions of dollars in gold chains and stuff like that. Maybe we could spread the wealth a little bit and use it more properly to lift all boats with the tide rising type thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the lesson that we could take from animals or ants or any kind of organized, natural, non-human being, is that they're not pilfering their resources. They're using it properly. They're thinking about a circular economy and how can we sustain and live for the long term. And granted, they have shorter lifetimes than us, and maybe they don't have the same awareness of past and future, but it's lessons that can be learned from lesser intelligent beings, right?
Exactly. So maybe my theory is that we can learn from ants. Hopefully, maybe they won't take over the world, but there's many lessons we can take from them.
Right. Maybe the lesson is we shouldn't try to take over the world. Maybe we should try to figure out how to be more in harmony with nature and with the planet so we can use this spaceship for the next 1,000, 10,000 years.
I think I'm going to buy an ant farm.
Tell me what you uncover. You might be a Nat Geo explorer at that point.
Yeah, just keep it in the office, Why not?
Put it on live cam, and you can always share it on your feed, and people can see how your ant colony is growing.
I'm doing it, man. I'm buying one.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, might as well have some quarantine buddies.
Love being an adult. Yeah. You want an ant farm?
We got a fish for our kids.
I wonder if they'll probably send the frozen ants.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Yeah, they probably can reanimate them.
Frozen ants.
Well, Eric, that was our time. Mr. Gillman, thank you for joining me on I've Got a Theory. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear what other people have to share. And as always, it was great having you on and great seeing you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thanks for the opportunity, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.